Chicago City Lifers Facebook buddies, those watching on YouTube. This is going to be our midday word because some things that's going on later on. Pastor Chuck comes and share the word. I just want to share a couple of announcements. One, I just want to thank those of you who've been faithfully giving every week. Thank you for your faithfulness. God is going to continue to bless you. I believe it. On Sundays, we have our celebration service at 11:30 a.m. But prior to Sunday service, we have Sunday School by Mike Drake. And then this Sunday, we're launching our Children Sunday School.
Which the place you stand is holy ground. Listen, I want to suggest to you this afternoon that you must understand that God is not common. God is not common. God is not common. God is not common. Listen, y'all, we don't serve a God that is common. We don't serve a God that is like nobody else that the world portrays. Our God is uncommon. So listen, the way we approach God has to be differently. I'm saying this because a lot of times we get in the rhythm of as if God is like everybody else. And we can't approach God like he's anybody else. We can't approach him like that. There is a specific and certain way that we must understand how we ought to come to God. So when Moses is walking to that bush, and God is saying, take off your shoes, for the place you stand is holy ground. He wasn't saying that to make Moses feel like he was small. He was saying that to say, listen, I am God and I'm like nobody else. I know that you were in Egypt. I know that you served Pharaoh. I know that you served those other gods. I know that you built things in honor of the other gods. But listen, I am the God of the universe. I am the God that created you. I'm the God that even created Pharaoh and all of them. So you don't approach me the same way you approach them. God is not common. God is not common. But what we also see is where God says to take off your shoes, take off your sandals, for which the place you stand is holy ground, which suggests to us that when we approach God, there are some things that we have to take off. That when you come to the presence of God, that when you come into a place where you are with God, there are some things that you have to take off of yourself, take off of your life, take out of your life, take off of your mind, take off of your heart. That when we approach God, that when we are in the presence of God, there are some things that are going to have to come up. He says, take off your shoes, for which the place you stand is holy ground. This holy ground is significant. This holy ground is powerful because now Moses is experiencing the presence of God. He is experiencing the weight of God. He is experiencing the image of God in a way that nobody else has ever experienced it before. But the last thing I want to suggest to you and encourage you with and then call you to action with is that as he is in this place in the presence of God, Moses understands that God calls him to action. God calls Moses to action. God calls Moses to action. In the presence of God, God calls Moses to action. And what I want to suggest to you is that a lot of people are missing the essence of the presence of God. That in the presence of God, that God will call you to some things. In the presence of God, you will discover your purpose like never before. In the presence of God, God will tell you things that he wants you to do specifically. And in this moment, in the moment where Moses felt unworthy to look at God, God said, you are worthy to be able to go back to Egypt and to set my people free. That in the moment where Moses felt unworthy, in the moment where Moses felt like he was not able to look at God or see God face to face, God says, I'm going to call you and make you worthy of what you don't feel like. Listen, y'all, when we are in the presence of God, we may feel unworthy. We may feel undeserving. We may feel like we're not able to sit under the presence. We don't feel like we are good enough to be there. But in that moment of unworthiness, God says we are worthy enough to carry out his call. And that's where we see where God calls Moses and says, hey, I want you to go back to Egypt and to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. That while Moses is in the presence of God, he also gets a call from God. And while we are in God's presence, while we seek God's presence, we must realize and understand that in the moment of solitude, in the moment where we are connecting with God, we will experience a call from God. Moses gets the call and says, hey, I want you to go back to Egypt and to tell Pharaoh to let my people go.